Alrighty, here we go. Get my headphones sorted out real quick. Here we go. Okay. Hello, hello. Cat dog? I'm your meteorologist, Cloud Hudson. And I'm here to bring you today's top weather stories, today's top vibe stories of May 13th, 2024. Let's go ahead and show on stream what we're looking like for our atmospheric terrestrial weather today. That is the type of weather that people usually think of as weather. This is our current clouds on Earth type of weather. That's what I mean by terrestrial atmospheric. You see, we've got a little bit of Gulf of Mexico moisture moving into the Gulf Coast, New Orleans, Mobile, Alabama, slightly getting into the panhandle of Florida here. We've got several special marine warnings, which are warning us for gale wind conditions, as well as a flash flood warning with considerable damage threat over here in Gulfport, Alabama. Very close to New Orleans. Gulfport, I thought it was in Louisiana. Thought it was technically Gulfport, Louisiana, but I guess no, Biloxi is also, I don't know where the borderlands actually lie here. I thought that anyway, Gulfport, Alabama, whatever. States are fake anyway. We have some thunderstorms rolling through the Gulf Coast. We've got thunderstorms in Arkansas and Louisiana, as well as sweeping up through the Illinois region, slightly into Chicago, but not really reaching the city proper. As we get into the Northeast, there is definitely some precipitation going on as well, but nothing as remarkable as we had last week or the week before, really. Nothing quite as significant as our other weather events that we had, like 10 straight days of severe tornado producing thunderstorm outbreaks recently. So thankfully, we are not looking at those types of conditions right now, just some normal, typical May showers. Now, let me go ahead and switch us over to our volcano look up. Okay, I'm going to go over the volcanoes we had yesterday first. Let's see. I did not get to broadcast yesterday because, unfortunately, I am not made of money, and my subscription to Streamlabs did lapse because I didn't have $9 in my banking account. I had $0 actually, and I needed $9 in order to be able to go live and stream on multiple platforms at once. So if you want to never see me not go live, please do subscribe to my Patreon, be a follower on Patreon, because it's really cheap. I promise I'm going to make content every day. I just had zero money to pay my $9 Streamlabs subscription in order to do multi-streaming. So if you think that you feel like you have more financial flexibility than I do, where $9 is like a really big stretch goal for me to be able to pay every month, then please subscribe to my Patreon. I do post a monthly coloring book. I do post a monthly coloring book. This is a sneak preview of what we get in May. And I also post exclusive updates. It's where I'm using to get my Twitter/Tumblr text posting blog outlet to, if you feel like you have a little bit more financial abundance and security than I do, where I am hurting for $9 per month, then please consider subscribing to Patreon. But also, if you are hurting for $9 per month, then don't bother with it. You can just look at my free posts. Okay. That is me making an excuse for why I didn't post last night, but actually that is why I didn't post last night. I couldn't use my regular technology because I had a momentary lapse in financial ability. Let's take a look at what happened yesterday on our volcano side. Mount Shivaluk, Mount Kamchatka over in Russia, has a survey team has embarked upon a mission to reach the newly formed Charon 1 lava dome. The team conducted thorough video documentation of the dome using both visible and infrared spectrums. While the spectra is the plural of spectrums. While the dimensions are yet to be determined, initial estimates suggest a height exceeding 70 meters. That's really tall. The dome continues to grow, accompanied by frequent debris avalanches. Samples of andesite mixed with xenoliths were collected from comprehensive chemical analysis, aiding in understanding the full composition of the site. The new dome began on April 26th. According to satellite imagery, the lava dome appears smooth with a curved outer surface, resembling previous lava domes at the volcano. Viscous, gas-poor magma has been accumulating within the dome. Here is a visible and thermal electromagnetic spectrum image of the Charon Dome. This is the Charon Dome. This is the one complaining to the manager of Russia, saying we deserve to be on the map for volcanic activity. The Charon Lava Dome. Manam in Papua New Guinea continues its explosive activity. Here's a image of it, that little dot right there in the middle. Ash plumes rose to flight level 150. We've got a new satellite image of Samiru, as well as a new satellite image of Dukono, both of them very clearly putting off little trails of cloud dust into the atmosphere, making cloud condensation nuclei all the way up to the different flight levels that they've reached. Popo continues its explosive activity, so does Santiaguito. Doesn't have any observable volcanic activity, but it is still not taken off of the active eruptions list because it, for all intents and purposes, looks like it still should be erupting. Fuego continues to emit volcanic ash emissions. Nevada de Ruiz did not have any detectable emissions. Reventador had emissions. Salankaya had a strong puff to 33,000 feet. That's flight level 330. And Ubinas in Peru had volcanic ash plume that rose up to 22,000 feet. That is flight level 2200. Flight level 220. Moving south. Let's see what had a new explosion from Reventador. While I said that Reventador wasn't exploding, it now has had a ongoing volcanic ash emission. Santiaguito also has gone from none to sporadic volcanic ash emissions. Let's see. Here's a huge ash column from Mount Ibu. And that is in Halmahera, Indonesia. At 9:12 local time, another impressive column of ash erupted from its cinder cone, went up to 21,000 feet, flight level 210. We are in alert 3. There's an exclusion zone of 3 kilometers. Everywhere 5 kilometers from the crater. Also, yeah, this is Reventador also doing some numbers. Everybody doing some great stuff over there in the volcanic ash world. Now, let's go ahead and take a look at our earthquakes for today. Earthquakes, I didn't get the right window broadcasting. Hold on. Sometimes Earthquake 3D doesn't want to show me the right window. Show me the money. I want the one, not the one that has there are 2 different. Okay, so the reason that Earthquake 3D doesn't always show me the correct window is because it has 2 different windows, one for my tools and settings, and one for the actual data displayed. And for some reason, OBS doesn't automatically grab the one that I mean. Let's try this one more time. There we go. Okay, now it'll show the right one. Okay. So let's start over here in the Americas. We got 3.4, 2.7, and 2.8 over here in Puerto Rico. We have an increased number of earthquakes in the South American continent. We've got a 4.6 at 10 kilometers depth, a 4.8 at 9 kilometers depth, and a 4.9 at 18 kilometers depth, a 5.2 finally at 10 kilometers depth. Those are all up and down the Eastern Pacific, the southern East Pacific. We've got a 4.1 in southern central Mexico. That is actually, no, that's not this. The 4.1 was at, okay, you want to show me? I'm about to get really mad at this software. 4.1 was at 36 kilometers depth. The 6.3 was at 0 kilometers depth. That is actually a very notable earthquake. A very notable earthquake. A 6.3 at 0 kilometers depth. That is registering as in near Chiapas, Mexico. That is also an area that is famous for having many unique endemic species. Chiapas, Mexico is a very important biodiverse region. It's where there are cloud forests in Mexico. Chiapas and Oaxaca, 2 provinces or states really close to the Gulf of Tehuantepec here on the eastern Pacific. That is a incredibly important place on the globe for orchids, for mushrooms, for species of bryophytes or mosses. This is an incredibly biodiverse region. The only region more biodiverse than the Southern Appalachians in this area of North America. So a 6.3 here sends shockwaves throughout the rest of the world from a place that has such high biodiversity. To see an earthquake in this region, a 6.3 at 0 kilometers depth, that is something that's going to send shockwaves into the rest of the world for weeks to come, honestly. I can't wait until we get to see the messages from Chiapas to the rest of the world. Okay, a 3.6 up here, 2.4 up here. These are in central Mexico. And then as we get into the so-called United States, we have a 1.7 at 4 kilometers depth here in, that is just southeast of, actually, this 1.7 looks to be in Sulphur. Where is this? Uh, no, I didn't get the epicenter of that right. That one is actually in Texas. Oh, yes. Okay. This 1.7 is in Texas. But this little stack of earthquakes, this stack of ones, is near Oklahoma City. This stack is near the drilling points. And then as we get into, guys, it is always so hard to tell what is happening in the west coast of the United States because there is just such rampant fracking that all of the tectonic energy that goes into the craton at this point gets dissolved and fractured out into the bedrock at many different points. But at least we are showing a little bit of notable attenuation of energy into the plate boundaries over here on the Baja Peninsula. 3.4, two 3.4s, one at 19 kilometers depth, one at 22 kilometers depth. We also had a 26 or a 2.6 kilometer. Nope, still not the word I wanted to say. A 2.6 magnitude earthquake at 10 kilometers depth up here in Smiths Ferry, Idaho. That is just another place that gets a lot of earthquakes. No reason to question it. Over here in Alaska, we saw some mid-range twos along with a lot of lower level quakes. The highest quake we saw out here on the Aleutian Island chain, we had a 3.2 and a 3.6, both mediumly, well, okay, so the 3.6 was at 59 kilometers depth and the 3.2 was at 10 kilometers depth. So the 3.2 at a medium depth, but the 3.6 was kind of deep. We are still getting some medium shallow quakes and medium intensity quakes over here in Hawaii. There was yesterday a flurry of quakes in Hawaii, but they have since calmed down just a little bit. We've got a 4.6 and a 4.9 out here on the Marianas Trench region. That is also shallow. We got a 4.6 in the Philippines, 4.8 in Indonesia, and a 4.9 in the Banda Sea. Down here, all the way at 270 kilometers depth. This 5.2 over here in Papua New Guinea is at 173 kilometers depth. That is pretty deep as well. The 4.6 and 4.9 were strangely shallow compared to what they look like they should. My depth exaggeration doesn't really always read quite well. We've got, okay, the waiting for my computer to get to the right date. Thank you very much. Over here in the wave-shaped plate boundary area, we had another extremely deep quake. This time a 4.7 3 kilometers depth, and you and me, I don't think the depth exaggeration is showing very well on Earthquake 3D because it doesn't look like this is 600 and this is 300. I think that these need a little bit more artistic exaggeration there. But that has led to a string of deeper quakes rippling throughout New Zealand, like a 4.9 at only 35 kilometers depth, 3.8 at 100 kilometers depth. They're getting shallower as they move southward, but they are actually, I mean, still maintaining some depth at all the way at to 100 kilometers depth. Some of them getting shallower, but mostly some mid levels rippling through the New Zealand area. Now, let's move on. Let's keep going throughout the world. We had a 4.0 here in, looks like in Iraq, actually. Yeah, a 4.0 at 12 kilometers depth in Iraq on the Iraq-Iran border. That is 34 kilometers southeast of Mandali, Iraq. That is like almost due east of Baghdad. We are looking at, usually we get earthquakes in Turkey or Iran in the mountainous regions, not in the valley regions of Iraq. We also have our flurry of earthquakes around Crete. Looks like, let's see what the highest magnitude is. We got a 4.1, 3.6, and a 3.1. 3.6 and 3.1 were here near Crete. The 4.1 was at 9 kilometers up in the mainland of Greece. Let's see who else we've got on the map today. Looks like nobody else. Okay, we can move on. Thank God. Let's keep moving on with the broadcast. Hello, everyone. I hope that you are with us tonight. I'm sorry that I wasn't here last night. I just it took a while to get back. I had 7 people the last time I streamed, and then I didn't stream last night, and now I'm like, well, might as well start over. Let's see who is next. The next thing I want to talk about is our Schumann resonance data, because we just talked about our earthquakes, volcanoes, and atmospheric weather. Okay, Schumann resonance data looking pretty normal. Power spikes. So that is definitely some discrete, isolated wave packets of energy just really bursting forth. And I think that we're going to be able to see this on, on frequencies. I do want to talk about our solar weather, because that is still the most noteworthy thing going on. On the 12th, we had a little bit of background like hum, but on the 13th, we've really fizzled out just a little bit. Let's go over to our space weather now, because yesterday to have some notable coronal mass ejections. Ooh, and we do today as well. Okay. Let's go from 40 to 48. We had 8, 9 coronal mass ejections yesterday. 2 of them qualified as potentially having a complete halo with them. So let's take a look at the imagery of those right now. The first one, a 3. Wow. Beautiful. A type 3 potential full halo event. You can see all the speckly spots, the polka dots being the places that are radiation particles hitting the receptor. And the big old coronal mass ejection, big old load shooting towards us. Then the second part of it was mapping a different area of the coronal mass ejection, technically probably part of the same event. Then today on the 13th, we've gone from 49 to 57. That is 7. Let's take a look at this type 4 coronal mass ejection event. Go. It goes. And okay, so you see this, how it is exploding, just one massive sun fart. And there are tons of protons. There's so many radiation particles. We are currently sitting at elevated proton flux, and we are about to see more that we petered off from last week's big spike, but during last week's when the okay, it takes a few days for different wavelengths of things that the sun does hit us at different times. Some of them we can feel within 8 minutes, and some of them it takes up to 5 days for us to feel the effects. It depends on the wavelength, and by wavelength I mean what medium I'm talking about hitting us from the sun. If that makes no sense. Hey. You mic right now because there's a few. This is why you don't use USB cords for a mic, Beringer. Correct. Reading from this mic, but we're gonna make it work. Um, the solar proton flux. So the solar protons that we're looking at here represent what's actually coming in the form of ionizing radiation, not just plasma, not just charged particles, but protons being positively charged particles, which means something that wants to steal an electron from something else, which means it will ionize something else. It will make something an ion. British monarchy to have. Weird hobby for the British monarchy to have, just feeling like they want to establish a homeland for Jewish people in the Middle East. It's almost like they didn't believe in the promises that the Jewish God gave to their people. It's almost like England didn't believe in the promises given to Abraham. It's almost like the British people don't actually believe that people deserve a homeland there. They just want to get them out of their own country. It's almost like that, but it's not. I'm not going to say that. I'm saying it's almost like that. I'm not saying that it's like that. I'm saying that it's almost like that. I'm saying it's almost like that. Okay? I'm not saying that it is. That's me. I'm not saying that's how it is. I'm saying it's almost like England wanted to kick people out of their country. It's almost like that. It's almost like that. It's almost like they wanted to have make up a country in order to not allow refugees to come into theirs. It's almost like there was a group of people in the 40s that were being heavily persecuted, and England didn't want to take them into their state, so they said, let's make up another state for them to go to. It's almost like England is the bad guy. It's almost like that. I'm not saying it's like that. I'm saying it's almost like that. Anyway, astrology. Here is our planetary weather for today. We've got the sun in Taurus. In the third decan of Taurus. Everybody remember that the Nakba is a honoring of the legacy of the resistance of the Palestinian people against British monarchy invasion. The current sun in Taurus at 23 degrees conjunct Uranus is trine to Black Moon Lilith is also opposite. Aries is the asteroid that would be associated with Virgo, but I feel like Black Moon Lilith does have some Virgo energy, so it feels really good for Black Moon Lilith to be in Virgo, setting off the tones of death, the sickle, the harvest, the reclamation, the reanimation, the repurposing kind of energy, and the finding new strength, the feminine urge to completely go off the rails. That's the Black Moon Lilith in Virgo. But the feminine urge to go off the rails is something that is more ordered, logical, and rhythmically dependable than anything a masculine energy could ever imagine. That's the energy of Black Moon Lilith in Virgo to me. Anyway, we got Saturn in Pisces still, Neptune in Pisces as well. We've got Pluto in Aquarius, is currently the only planet retrograde, and that is going to be trying to technically we are already within a 5-degree orb of Jupiter being trine to this, but I'm not going to count this as a trine until Jupiter moves into Gemini. And honestly, I'm savoring my last few days of Jupiter in Taurus. Okay, I didn't strike it rich. I didn't get rich quick during Jupiter in Taurus season, even though my sun is in Taurus, but I definitely had a good time. I think the world is going to be really sad, unfortunate, hungry, and thirsty during a time of Jupiter in Gemini, because we're going to have an abundance of gossip and a dearth of food. Sorry. You were supposed to get fat during Jupiter and Taurus. That's what Jupiter and Taurus is for. Jupiter and Taurus is for storing up your fat, because Jupiter in Gemini is going to be an abundance of skinny queen energy. If you're ready to be a skinny queen, you are so ready for Jupiter and Taurus. But if you are not ready for Ozempic face, get ready. I hope you planted your seeds. I hope that you know how to grow your own crops, even if the weather's weird. I hope you know how to grow your own crops, even if the weather is being controlled by the government. Not that the weather control. Nobody controls the weather. We all control the weather. Anyway, Jupiter is in its last few degrees of Taurus. Mercury is in its last few degrees of Aries. And finally, Mercury is moving out of its shadow period in Aries, moving into Taurus. We will have, I think, very briefly, a 5-planet stellium in Taurus. I think Mercury's going to be in there with Jupiter for like one day. But we are still in a Taurus stellium. We're going to quickly switch from a Venus, Uranus, Sun, Jupiter stellium in Taurus to a Mercury, Venus, Uranus, Sun stellium in Taurus. And we have our moon in Leo today at 9 degrees. Earlier today, it was opposing Aquarius Pluto at 2 degrees. Now, I don't think anybody's joined me for this update, so I really don't know how much of a liminal space update I want to do today. I'm going to do one card pull. I'm going to do one card pull from the liminal space deck. I feel like I got really off topic on this stream, and I started to rant a whole lot about oppression. And I usually try to keep it more light and shit. You know, I usually try not to be too weird on this stream, but I do occasionally feel the deep urge to scream at the universe. So thank you, and sorry for letting me scream at you about fun facts about what happened on May 15th. Another fun fact, what happened on May 15th, on the 15th of May in the jungle of Newell, in the heat of the day, in the cool of the pool, he was splashing, enjoying the jungle's great care, when Horton the elephant stretched his trunk through the air. Horton Hears a Who takes place on May 15th, the Nakba. Do you think Dr. Seuss knew that? Do you think Dr. Seuss was aware? Do you think Dr. Seuss was aware of the significance of the date May Fu? I wonder. Slapping my cards as loud as I fucking can. I'm not upset. I am not upset. Not mad at all. Not mad at the state of the world, my life, or my choices. I feel very good about things. I get to slam my cards as loud as I want to right now. Because somebody else is usually triggered by me slamming my cards down. But they're not here right now. So I can do whatever I want within reason. Whatever I want that's not going to wake up my parents and get me kicked out. They would never kick me out unless I did so many things that I'm holding myself back from doing that they don't even know is an option for me. Okay, cosmic weather. Cosmic weather from the liminal space. What are we doing tonight? What is the cosmic weather? We're just doing postcards from the liminal space tonight. So give me a good one. All right. It's not that deep. No diving. It's not that deep. Wonder what that means. It's not that deep. That means if you cannot explain something, simply not understand it well enough, and more understanding is not available at this time. Respect the boundary you found yourself up against. It's not that deep if you are floating or swimming, but fatally deep if you are drowning. There is no lifeguard on duty, so now is not the time for emotional choices or hypotheticals. It's not that deep. If you can't take a superficial stance on genocide, then you're not serious. And if you don't want to be serious about political change, that's fine. May 15th is just my birthday. It's not that deep. Maybe it's just a day. But also maybe there are people actively drowning. So while it's not that deep for you, it might be deep for somebody else. So it's not that hard. It's not going to kill you to be denied a job. It's not going to kill you. You don't have a bomb dropped on you because you didn't get hired because you signed a petition. It actually might kill some people if we don't do something drastic to bring attention to the fact that there's a modern day Holocaust going on right now. So, you know, maybe it's not that deep. Maybe it's not that nuanced. Maybe killing people is bad. Maybe it's not that deep. Maybe it's not that deep. Maybe it's not that deep. You can just say, yeah, I don't like bad stuff. Maybe don't worry about the consequences of your actions. Maybe you can just say, morally, this is a bad thing. Maybe don't worry about what's going to happen to you if you stand up for your principles. Maybe just tell the fucking truth. Tell people what they did to hurt you and tell people what you're sorry for doing. Own up to your bullshit. Admit what you did. Stand. It's not that deep. You don't don't. It's okay. You can be the person who likes killing people. That's fine. Just admit that that's your whole deal. Admit that that's something you like and move on with it. It's not that deep. Some people are just fuzzy, like to kill people boys. I'm not saying it's okay. I'm just saying that those people exist. Don't pretend to not be that. Okay. Maybe it's not that deep. Maybe it's not that deep. Or maybe I'm being silenced by YouTube and sometimes they're just trying to cut me off in the middle of my stream because